My name is Ava Reynolds, and I've spent most of my adult life preparing for problems before they explode. At 31, I work as a corporate compliance strategist for a financial services firm in Denver. My job is simple on paper and exhausting in reality. Identify risks, close loopholes, and ensure that no one can quietly cause damage behind the scenes. What I never expected was that my own family would become the biggest risk I'd ever have to manage. The message came on a weekday afternoon, right as I was reviewing a vendor audit. My phone buzzed once on my desk. I glanced at it, ready to ignore it, until I saw the name. Mom. I put in my earbuds and hit play. Her voice was calm. Too calm. No anger. No hesitation. Just a cold, final tone that didn't sound like it was meant for a daughter at all. Ava, we've decided to move forward without you. You're out. Don't come back. We're done. That was it. No explanation. No follow-up. No room to speak. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. I just stared at the spreadsheet on my screen while my heart hammered like it was trying to warn me about something I already knew. I replayed the voicemail once more, hoping I'd misheard it. I hadn't. Most people would have called back immediately. I didn't. Years of risk management kicked in before emotion had a chance. I typed a single reply. Okay. Then I did exactly what they didn't expect. I logged into the family business accounts, the ones I had structured myself, the LLC, holding our rental properties, the shared financial tools, the upcoming property deal everyone was counting on. One by one, I removed my approvals, froze permissions, and locked down access tied to my name, credit, and income. No arguments. No warnings. Next, I contacted the real estate agent and formally withdrew from the deal they'd been planning their future around. Everything in writing. Clean and irreversible. Finally, I paused the retirement frameworks I had built to protect my parents, making sure nothing could be altered without my direct consent. By the time I leaned back in my chair, the damage they thought they could do was already impossible. I assumed that would be the end of it. Instead, the next morning, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Missed calls, texts, unknown numbers. And then a voicemail from a law office. We need to speak immediately, the lawyer said. This is serious. I laughed under my breath. Because they thought the problem was that I'd left. They had no idea the real problem was what disappeared with me. They told me I was out, but by the next morning, they were desperate to pull me back in. I woke up the next morning to my phone vibrating toward the edge of the nightstand. For a split second, I thought it was my alarm. Then I saw the screen. Missed calls. Dozens of them. Mom, Dad, unknown numbers. One from a law firm I vaguely recognized. I didn't feel panic. I felt confirmation. I let the phone sit there while I made coffee, listening to it buzz like an insect trapped under glass. Only when the machine finished dripping did I finally pick it up and listen to the voicemail from the lawyer. This is Mark Ellison, legal counsel for your parents. Ava, we need to speak as soon as possible. There's a serious issue. Serious. That word always shows up when someone realizes they've lost leverage. My messages filled in fast after that. My mom's tone had shifted completely. Ava, please call me. This is a misunderstanding. We didn't mean it the way it sounded. Come over so we can explain. My dad followed with his own texts. Softer, more familiar. Kiddo, whatever's going on, we can fix it. Funny how certainty disappears once consequences arrive. What stood out most wasn't who was calling it, was who wasn't. My younger sister, Brooke. Normally, she flooded group chats with emojis and commentary. This time, silence. On the way to work, my phone kept buzzing in my bag. I ignored it. At my desk, I sent 3 short replies, nothing emotional, nothing negotiable. To Mom, I'm safe. I need space. To Dad, I heard the voicemail. I'm not ready to talk. To the lawyer, I'll respond in writing when appropriate. That was all they were getting. Around mid-morning, my coworker leaned over the divider and studied my face. You look like someone just tried to flip a table in your life, she said quietly. I hesitated, then told her the basics. Family, business. A voicemail that erased me in 10 seconds. She shook her head slowly. If lawyers are calling already, don't move emotionally. Every guilty reaction becomes evidence. She was right. I knew that. Risk wasn't about anger, it was about timing. Near lunch, a text came in from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in months. Heard you pulled out of the property deal because you're overwhelmed. Just checking in. Overwhelmed. The word landed wrong. It wasn't mine. It sounded rehearsed. That's when the pieces started lining up. My sister lost her job recently. Her sudden interest in simplifying the family business. The way she'd been asking too many questions at dinners she never cared about before. And now silence from her, while everyone else panicked. I stared at the message, feeling a calm, sharp realization settle in. This wasn't just a family meltdown. Someone had already started rewriting the story with me cast as the unstable problem they needed to remove. And if Brooke thought she could step into what I built by pushing me out quietly, she had chosen the worst possible way to try. The more they panicked, the clearer it became, this wasn't an accident. It was a setup. 2 days later, I tried to convince myself that everything was normal by doing something painfully ordinary. I went to my usual coffee shop, the quiet one near my apartment, where the barista knew my order and no one ever rushed. I needed something that felt unchanged. I had just taken my cup when I heard my name. Ava. Hey. I turned and saw one of my dad's old friends, someone I'd known since I was a teenager. He smiled, then lowered his voice like he was about to share something sensitive. Rough situation with that property deal, he said. I heard you stepped back because things were getting intense. I frowned. Intense, how? He hesitated. You know, work stress, too much pressure. Your mom and sister were worried about you. There it was again. That same careful phrasing. Not angry, not accusing, just enough to make me sound fragile. I smiled tightly, thanked him, and walked out before my face could give away what I was feeling. Outside, the cold air hit me hard, and for the first time since the voicemail, I felt real anger, not explosive, but precise. Someone wasn't just panicking behind closed doors. They were laying the groundwork. Back in my car, I scrolled through my phone. No messages from Brooke. Not a single missed call. Yet somehow, she was comfortable telling people I was too unstable to handle something I'd organized from start to finish. That wasn't gossip. That was positioning. I made one call before I could talk myself out of it to Daniel, the financial advisor who had helped me design the original family structure years ago, before my parents switched advisors at my sister's suggestion. He listened quietly as I asked my question. Then he went still. There have been draft documents, he said carefully. Nothing finalized. But your mother asked about adjusting ownership percentages. Adding another family member as a managing authority. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. With my approval. Your name was referenced, he said. But there was no signature. I told them nothing moves without you. Another family member? I didn't need him to say her name. After we hung up, a message finally came through from Brooke. What do you think you're doing? You're causing chaos. Pulling out, locking things down, it's scaring mom and dad. Not why are you okay? Not what happened. Just frustration that the plan had stalled. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my email and sent 2 messages. The first went to the real estate agent, formally confirming my withdrawal and stating that any claim of my involvement going forward was unauthorized. The second went to Brooke, short, professional, unmistakable. Any attempt to alter financial structures, represent my approval, or sign on my behalf was unauthorized. Any such action would be documented and escalated legally. No insults. No emotion. Just consequences. That night, I created a folder on my laptop and named it Family Risk File. Screenshots, voicemails, messages. Every contradiction, saved and dated. Because if someone was building a version of me that made them look innocent, I was going to build a better one made entirely of proof. She thought controlling the story would give her control, but she forgot stories fall apart when receipts show up. 3 days later, my parents asked to talk. Not over text, not through a lawyer. In person, I agreed, but on my terms. We met at their house the following evening. Same living room I'd grown up in. Same couch, same framed photos on the wall. The only difference was the tension, thick enough to feel before I even sat down. Brooke was already there, perched in an armchair with a tissue in her hand like a prop. She wouldn't look at me. I placed a folder on the coffee table and my phone beside it. Before we start, I said calmly, I need to be clear. If anyone lies tonight, I'm done. This doesn't leave this room. Brooke scoffed. Wow, dramatic much. If the truth is simple, I replied, it won't feel dramatic. My mom twisted her hands together. Honey, we just want to understand. Brooke told us, you said you were done. That you wanted out of everything. That you were planning to cut us off financially. I looked directly at Brooke. You said this happened in the car after dinner. She nodded. You were upset. You don't remember half the things you say when you're overwhelmed. I opened the folder and slid the first page forward. Here's your rideshare receipt from that night, I said. Timestamped 10:15. And here's my gas charge across town at 10:13. 2 different routes. 2 different cars. Silence. There was no car conversation. I continued. I drove myself. Brooke shifted. Maybe it was another night. I flipped to the next page. This is the only other dinner we've had together in 3 months. You left early to meet friends. I stayed to pay. My dad leaned back slowly, his jaw tightening. Brooke, she shrugged. Memory isn't perfect. Receipts are, I said. One by one, I laid everything out. The email withdrawing from the property deal sent before the mental health narrative started. The advisor's note about draft documents referencing my approval without my signature. Screenshots of posts implying financial abuse. Messages from relatives repeat the same careful phrasing. Each page landed heavier than the last. My mom finally looked at Brooke. You told us you'd seen emails. Brooke's voice sharpened. So now she's a saint because she printed things. My dad's voice stayed steady. The truth doesn't fall apart when you check it. Something shifted then. I saw it in my mom's face, realization, not anger. We protected the wrong person, she said quietly. We assumed Ava could handle anything, and that you needed saving. Brooke opened her mouth, but my mom raised a hand. Not tonight. The room went silent. They had cut me out based on a story Brooke wrote. Now they were watching that story collapse page by page under its own weight. They finally saw the truth, but what they did next would decide whether the damage was permanent. The silence in that living room felt heavier than any argument. Brooke stared at the floor, twisting the tissue in her hands, while my parents sat frozen, processing the realization that they'd almost cut off the one person who had actually kept everything standing. So what happens now? Brooke finally snapped. You proved your point. Congratulations. Are you happy? I met her eyes. This isn't about happiness. It's about consequences. My dad rubbed his jaw slowly. Ava, he said, what do you think should happen? Brooke whipped toward him. You're asking her. Yes, he replied calmly. Because she's the one who built this. I took a breath. You told me I was out. So here's what that means. I'm no longer the unspoken safety net. No one uses my name, my credit, or my work without my consent. And Brooke has zero access, formal or informal, to anything I set up. Brooke's voice went thin. So you're cutting me out? No, my mom said quietly, surprising both of us. We're stopping the cycle. She turned to me. We want you to rewrite the documents. Cleanly, honestly, with protections, the way they should have been from the start. I studied her for a moment. You understand this means real limits. No emotional overrides. No side promises. She nodded. We do now. Brooke laughed sharply. Unbelievable. You're handing her control. My dad didn't raise his voice. We rehanding responsibility back to the person who's been carrying it all along. That was the end of the debate. Over the next week, everything changed quietly, legally, permanently. Advisors revised structures. Permissions were narrowed. Safeguards added. The family LLC became lean and locked down. No side doors. No creative interpretations. It wasn't revenge, it was architecture. A few days later, Brooke showed up at my office, unannounced, with a binder full of ideas and desperation. Just help me get started, she begged. Invest a little, I'll prove myself. I didn't take the binder. If it works, I said, you won't need me. If it doesn't, you'll understand why I said no. She stared at me like I'd taken something from her. I hadn't. I'd stopped giving. A month later, I stood in front of a modest triplex, skis in hand, watching my parents argue about where to hang a bird feeder. Everything was in writing now. Protected. Clear, honest. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Because when someone tells you you're out, don't beg your way back in. Ask yourself something more important. What do they lose access to the moment you believe them? Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't payback, it's walking away with your power fully intact. Thanks for watching the video, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon.